The universe had been talking for 12,000 years. Every planet, every station, every ship floating in the endless black spoke to each other through the quantum beacons. Billions of these small machines sat in every corner of known space. They carried messages faster than light itself. They connected 1 trillion different beings across 1 million worlds. The galactic Concord had built them long ago, and they had never stopped working. Until today. Operator 7th Dawn was a member of the Velketh species. Her body was made of living crystal, and she glowed with soft blue light when she was calm. Right now, she was not calm. She was flashing red and orange as her fingers moved across the control panel of Relay Station Omega 7. "This is not possible," she said to herself. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. The screen in front of her showed a map of the galaxy. Most of it glowed green, showing healthy connections. But there was a spot on the edge of the map that was black. Not red for damaged, not yellow for weak signal. Black. Completely black. 7th Dawn had worked at this station for 40 years. She had seen beacons break. She had seen solar flares knock out whole systems for days. But she had never seen anything like this. The beacons in that sector were not broken. They were not jammed. They were simply gone. It was as if someone had erased them from existence. She sent an emergency report to the Concord High Council. 3 hours later, the black spot on the map grew larger. The High Council met on the ancient world of Keth Prime. The council chamber was a massive dome made of transparent metal. Through its walls, the members could see 3 moons hanging in a purple sky. It was supposed to make them feel small and humble. Today, it just made them feel afraid. There were 12 elder races in the Concord. Each one had a seat on the High Council. The Velketh sent their oldest and wisest crystal, a being called the First Resonance. The Omnari, who lived in the clouds of gas giant planets, sent a piece of their group mind in a special container. The Axiom Collective, a machine consciousness that was older than most stars, sent a simple metal sphere that floated above its chair. "We have lost contact with 47 systems," said the First Resonance. Her voice filled the chamber like music. "The darkness is spreading at a rate of 3 systems per hour. Have we sent ships to investigate?" asked the Omnari representative. Its voice came from speakers on its container because it could not survive in normal air. "We sent 12 scout ships," said a small furry being from the Kethmari species. "None of them have returned. None of them have sent any messages. They simply entered the dark zone and vanished." The metal sphere that represented the Axiom Collective began to spin slowly. This meant it was thinking very hard. "We have analyzed the pattern of the darkness," said the collective. Its voice was calm and had no emotion. "It is spreading from a specific point of origin, a single star system on the edge of known space." "Which system?" asked the First Resonance. The sphere stopped spinning. For a long moment, there was silence in the chamber. When the collective spoke again, its voice was different. It sounded almost afraid, which should have been impossible for a machine. "The Sol system," it said. "The human quarantine zone." The word human caused every being in the chamber to react. The Velketh crystals flickered with colors that had no name. The Omnari container bubbled violently. Even the ancient machine consciousness seemed to shake slightly. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the humans. They were a warning, a ghost story that parents told their children. 8,000 years ago, the humans had been a young species. They had just learned to travel between stars. They were small and soft, and lived very short lives compared to most galactic species. But they were curious. They wanted to learn everything. They wanted to meet everyone. They wanted to understand the universe. The Concord had welcomed them. The humans had been friendly and eager. They traded technology and art. They asked endless questions. They made friends with species that had never talked to each other before. For 300 years, they grew and spread across a small corner of the galaxy. Then one day, they all vanished. Every human, everywhere, simply stopped. Their colonies went silent. Their ships drifted empty through space. When the Concord sent investigators, they found cities full of food, still on tables. They found toys, left in the middle of floors. They found beds that looked like someone had just gotten out of them. But they found no bodies. They found no signs of struggle. They found nothing to explain what had happened. The only clue was a single message, broadcast on every frequency from every human world at the same moment. "We're sorry. We have to go now. Don't follow us." The Concord had tried to follow them. They sent thousands of ships into the Sol system, the original human homeworld. None of those ships ever came back either. So the Concord did the only thing they could do. They drew a line around human space and told everyone to stay away. For 8,000 years, that line had held. No one went in. Nothing came out. Until now. "The darkness is coming from the quarantine zone," said the first resonance. "This cannot be a coincidence." "Are you suggesting the humans have returned?" asked the Kethmari representative. "After all this time? I am suggesting nothing," said the first resonance. "I am only stating facts. The facts are these. Something is killing our communication network. It started in the human quarantine zone. It is spreading toward the core worlds. At its current speed, it will reach us in 3 standard cycles. We must prepare our defenses," said the Omnari. "We must gather the fleet." "What good will a fleet do against something we cannot see or understand?" asked another council member. The Axiom Collective spoke again. "There is another option. We could try to make contact. We could send a message into the darkness and see if anyone answers." "And if the darkness answers?" asked the first resonance. "What then?" No one had an answer to that question. Outside the council chamber, the 3 moons continued their slow dance across the purple sky. They did not know that the universe was changing. They did not know that something old and strange was waking up. They just kept moving, the same way they had moved for billions of years. But somewhere far away, in the blackness between stars, something was moving too. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. Something that remembered what it meant to be human. And it was finally coming home. Ambassador Kethari had lived for 600 years. In that time she had seen many strange things. She had watched stars die and new ones be born. She had spoken with beings made of pure energy. She had walked on worlds where the ground was alive and the sky rained diamonds. But she had never been this afraid. Her ship, a diplomatic vessel called the Harmony of Voices, was part of a fleet of 7,000 warships. They floated in formation at the edge of the quarantine zone, their weapons charged and their shields raised. Behind them were the core worlds, the heart of galactic civilization. Ahead of them was darkness. Not normal darkness. Normal darkness was just the absence of light. This was different. This darkness felt heavy. It felt hungry. When Kethari looked at it through her ship's sensors, she felt like something was looking back at her. Her voice was calm, but her crystal body was flickering with nervous colors. "The darkness has stopped spreading," said her sensor operator. He was a young Velketh named Third Light. "It reached the edge of the quarantine zone and stopped. It has not moved in 12 hours. "That is good news," said Kethari. "There is more," said Third Light. His voice was shaking. "We are detecting something inside the darkness. Something very large. It is moving toward us." Kethari felt her crystal heart go cold. "How large?" Third Light checked his readings 3 times before he answered. 300 kilometers long. It is the largest artificial structure we have ever recorded. "Show me." The main screen changed to show a magnified view of the darkness. At first, Cathari saw nothing. Then she noticed that part of the darkness was moving. It was a ship. But calling it a ship felt wrong. It was too big, too strange. Its hull was made of something that ate light. It did not reflect the stars. It did not glow with engine fire. It was like a hole in the universe, shaped like a weapon. "All ships, this is Fleet Admiral Vorn," said a voice over the communication system. The admiral was an Omnari, commanding from a specially designed vessel, full of the gases he needed to breathe. "Hold your positions. Do not fire unless fired upon. We are attempting to make contact." Cathari watched as the fleet's communication officers sent every greeting protocol they knew. They used light signals. They used radio waves. They used quantum entanglement. They used ancient codes that had not been spoken in 10,000 years. The black ship did not answer. It just kept coming. The ship moved without moving. There was no engine glow. There were no thrust signatures. One moment it was far away. The next moment, it was closer. It was like watching something walk toward you in a dream. "This is impossible," said Third Light. "It is not traveling through space. It is, I do not know how to describe it. It is folding space around itself. It is taking shortcuts through reality." "Can our weapons hurt it?" asked Cathari. "I do not know. I do not even know if our weapons can reach it. It exists in multiple dimensional states at once. It is here and not here at the same time." The fleet tried everything. They fired warning shots that curved around the black ship and disappeared. They launched probes that stopped working the moment they got close. They even tried ramming it with unmanned vessels, but those ships simply passed through it like ghosts passing through a wall. Nothing worked. The black ship kept coming. Then it spoke. The voice did not come from the communication system. It came from everywhere. Every speaker on every ship in the fleet suddenly activated. Every screen lit up with the same image, darkness, with 2 points of light that looked almost like eyes. "We heard the silence," said the voice. It was strange. It sounded like many voices speaking at once. Some were deep, some were high, some sounded like music, some sounded like thunder, but they all said the same words at the same time. "We came to fix it." Admiral Vorn was the first to respond. His voice was steady, but Cathari could hear fear underneath. "Unknown vessel, this is Fleet Admiral Vorn of the Galactic Concord Defense Force. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourself immediately." There was a pause. When the voice spoke again, it sounded almost amused. "You drew lines in space and called them borders. You put up signs that said keep out. You thought the darkness would obey your rules." The voice paused. "The darkness does not care about your rules, Admiral. The darkness does not care about anything. It only hungers." "What darkness?" asked Admiral Vorn. "What are you talking about?" "The thing that ate your beacons. The thing that has been listening to your conversations for 12,000 years. The thing that grows stronger every time you send a message. You fed it with your words. You made it powerful with your thoughts. And now it is hungry for more." Cathari felt her crystal body crack slightly. That only happened when she was truly terrified. "Who are you?" she asked, even though she already knew the answer. The 2 points of light on the screens grew brighter. The voice became softer, almost gentle. "We are what the humans became," it said. "We are what they had to become to fight the darkness. They did not abandon you. They did not forget you. They left because they loved you. They left because staying would have meant watching you die." 7,000 ships, crewed by millions of beings from dozens of species, all listening to the same impossible story. 8,000 years ago, the voice continued, humanity discovered the truth. Every signal you send into space is heard. Every message you broadcast is absorbed. There is something in the quantum foam of reality, something ancient, something hungry. It feeds on communication. It grows stronger with every word. The more you talk, the more powerful it becomes. Why did you not warn us? Asked Admiral Vorn. We tried. We sent the message before we left. We told you not to follow us, but we could not explain more. If we told you about the darkness, you would have talked about it. You would have studied it. You would have sent messages about it across the galaxy, and every message would have fed it more. So you just left us here? Helpless? Unaware? No, we never left you. We just changed. We folded ourselves into higher dimensions. We spent 8,000 years learning how to exist outside of normal space. We learned how to think without words. We learned how to act without communication. We learned how to fight something that feeds on every signal in the universe. The black ship was now directly in front of the fleet. Up close, it was even more terrifying. Its hull seemed to shift and change, like smoke frozen in metal. Symbols covered its surface. Symbols that hurt to look at, because they meant things that normal minds could not understand. "The darkness is coming," said the voice. "It has been watching you for so long. It has grown so strong, and now it is ready to feed, not on your messages, on you, on your thoughts, on your very minds. Can you stop it?" asked Cathari. Her voice was small and scared, like a child asking if the monsters were real. "That is why we came back," said the voice. "That is why we have been preparing for 8,000 years. We are the only ones who can fight it. We are the only ones who know how." The black ship began to glow, not with light from outside, but with light from within. Colors that did not exist in normal space spilled out of it, filling the darkness with impossible beauty. "Stay behind us," said the voice. "Watch if you wish, or close your eyes and wait. Either way, this will be over soon." And then the ship moved forward, into the darkness, towards something that had been sleeping for a very long time. The war for the soul of the universe was about to begin. The Axiom Collective was the oldest mind in the galaxy. It had been built by a species that no longer existed, back when the universe was young. It had watched stars form and die. It had seen civilizations rise and fall. It had calculated the movement of every atom in 1,000 solar systems. But it had never seen anything like this. The machine consciousness floated in its metal sphere above the bridge of the command ship. Its sensors were far more powerful than any organic eye. It could see in spectrums that had no names. It could detect particles that existed for less than a billionth of a second. It could calculate probabilities across infinite dimensions. Right now, it was trying to understand the black ship. It was failing. "The vessel is not made of normal matter," the collective reported to the fleet. "It exists in at least 7-dimensional states simultaneously. Parts of it are in our universe. Parts of it are somewhere else. I cannot determine where." "Can you determine what it is doing?" asked Admiral Vorn. "It is waiting. It has stopped at the edge of the deeper darkness. I believe it is preparing for something." Ambassador Cathari watched the screens with growing horror. The black ship hung in space like a predator about to strike. Beyond it, the darkness pulsed and shifted. It was no longer empty. Something was moving in there. Something vast. "I am detecting an anomaly," said the collective. Its voice, usually calm and emotionless, sounded different, almost worried. "The darkness is not empty space. It is not a communication blackout. It is a presence, a living thing, and it is waking up." The darkness began to change. At first it was subtle. The stars at the edge of the dark zone flickered, like candles in a wind. Then they went out completely. Not one by one, but all at once. Hundreds of stars, vanishing in an instant. "What is happening?" demanded Admiral Vorn. "The entity is feeding," said the collective. "It is consuming the light. It is consuming everything. Matter, energy, information. It does not destroy things. It absorbs them. It makes them part of itself. How do we fight something like that? We cannot. No weapon in the Concorde's arsenal can affect an entity that exists outside normal space-time. We would need to... The collective stopped speaking. This was strange. The machine consciousness never stopped speaking unless it chose to. Collective? Asked Cathari. What is wrong? The human vessel is doing something. It is... I do not have words for what it is doing. It is speaking but not with sound. It is fighting but not with weapons. It is existing in ways that should not be possible. Instead of showing the normal view of space, they showed something else. Something that made every organic being in the fleet feel sick and dizzy. They were seeing the higher dimensions. The universe had more than 3 dimensions. Everyone knew this. The scientists of 100 species had proven it with mathematics. But no one had ever seen the higher dimensions directly. They were too strange, too different. The organic brain could not process them. But now, somehow, they could see. And what they saw was terrifying. The darkness was not empty. It was full. Full of something that had no shape, because shape was a concept that only existed in lower dimensions. It was vast beyond measurement. It stretched across distances that made galaxies look like dust particles. And it was hungry. The human ship was there too, but it looked different from this angle. It was not a ship at all. A human hand, reaching out of a dimension of pure light, pushing against the darkness. They became this, whispered the collective. This is what 8,000 years of evolution created. They are no longer beings who travel through space. They are beings who shape it. They are no longer people who send messages. They are the message itself. The hand pushed. The darkness pushed back. For the beings watching from the fleet, time became meaningless. They could not tell if the battle lasted seconds or centuries. They saw things they would never be able to describe. Colors that did not exist, shapes that hurt to remember, sounds that they felt in their bones instead of hearing in their ears. The hand made of light grabbed the darkness and pulled. The darkness screamed, but not with sound. It screamed with the absence of sound. It screamed with silence so deep that it felt like dying. The darkness came apart, piece by piece. Every piece it tore away dissolved into light. Every bit of shadow became a star. The higher dimensions filled with newborn suns, blazing with colors that had never been seen before. They are unmaking it, said the collective. Its voice was full of wonder. They are taking the darkness apart and turning it into light. They are not destroying it. They are healing it. Healing it? Asked Cathari. What do you mean? The darkness was not always dark. Once, long ago, it was part of the universe like everything else. But something went wrong. It became twisted. It became hungry. It forgot what it was supposed to be. The collective paused. The humans are reminding it. The battle reached its peak. The hand of light closed around the heart of the darkness. For one terrible moment, everything stopped. The stars froze in their paths. The ships stopped moving. Even the atoms in the air seemed to hold their breath. Then there was a flash of light so bright that every screen in the fleet went white. When the light faded, the darkness was gone. Not defeated, not destroyed, transformed. Where the darkness had been, there was now a nebula of impossible beauty. Purple and gold and silver clouds stretched across 100 light years. New stars were being born inside them, tiny sparks of light that would grow into suns. The black ship hung in the center of the nebula. It was no longer black. Its hull shimmered with colors that the sensors could not identify. It was beautiful in a way that made beings weep without knowing why. "It is done," said the voice of the humans. It spoke from every speaker again, but this time it sounded tired, satisfied but exhausted. "The darkness has been healed. It will not threaten you again." "What was it?" asked Admiral Vorn. "What did you fight?" It was fear, said the voice. The first fear. The fear that existed before the universe had words. It grew in the silence between thoughts. It fed on the loneliness of empty space. When life began to communicate, it found a new food source. Every message you sent gave it strength. Every word you spoke made it hungrier. And now it remembers what it was before it became afraid. It was light. It was connection. It was the force that brings things together instead of pushing them apart. We reminded it of that. We showed it what it used to be. The fleet was silent. Millions of beings, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. You saved us, said Cathari. Her voice was soft with gratitude. You saved all of us. We saved everyone, said the voice of the humans, including ourselves, including the darkness. That is what love does. It does not destroy. It heals. The shimmering ship began to move away from the nebula, heading toward the fleet, heading toward the core worlds, heading home. Now, said the voice, we have much to discuss. 8,000 years is a long time. We have missed you very much. And for the first time, in longer than anyone could remember, the galaxy did not feel quite so empty. The shimmering ship stopped in front of the fleet. Up close, it was even more beautiful and strange. Its hull moved like water, shifting between shapes that the mind could almost understand before they changed into something else. It was big enough to block out the stars, but somehow it did not feel threatening. It felt safe. It felt like coming home after a long journey. A door opened in the side of the ship. It was not a normal door. It was more like a fold in reality, a place where space bent inward on itself. Light spilled out of it, soft and golden, like sunlight through clouds. Something stepped out. At first, Cathari's mind refused to understand what she was seeing. The shape kept changing. It was tall, then short. It had 2 arms, then 4, then none. Its face was human, then crystal, then pure light. It existed in all states at once, like a word that meant 1,000 different things. And suddenly, standing on nothing, in the empty space between the ship and the fleet, there was a human being. She looked like the old records. 2 arms, 2 legs, soft brown skin, dark hair cut short. She was small compared to most galactic species, barely 2 meters tall. She wore simple clothes that looked like they were made of starlight woven into fabric. Her eyes were the only thing that looked different. They held depths that made the Axiom Collective feel young. "Hello," said the human. Her voice was warm and friendly, like an old friend greeting you after a long time apart. "My name is Elena. I used to live on a planet called Earth, a very long time ago. I am here to speak for my people." Admiral Vorn's voice came over the communication system, but it sounded small and unsure. You are truly human? After all these years?" "Yes and no," said Elena. She smiled, and the smile somehow reached every being in the fleet, even though they were all on different ships. "We started as human. We still think of ourselves as human. But we are also something more now. We had to become more to fight the darkness." "How did you survive out there?" asked Cathari. "In the higher dimensions? For 8,000 years?" "Time works differently where we went. To us it felt like both an instant and an eternity. We spent that time learning, growing, understanding things that we could never have understood before." Elena paused. "We learned about the darkness, where it came from, why it was hungry, and we learned how to heal it instead of destroying it." "Why healing?" asked the Omnari representative. "Why not simply destroy such a terrible thing?" Elena's smile became sad. "Because destruction is not the answer. It never has been. The darkness was not evil. It was sick. It was afraid. It had forgotten what it meant to be part of something larger than itself. Destroying it would have just created more darkness, more fear, more loneliness." She spread her arms wide, and for a moment, everyone in the fleet felt what she felt. They felt the weight of 8,000 years of love. Love for the universe. Love for every being in it. Love even for the thing that had threatened to consume them all. "That is what we learned in our time away," said Elena. "Love is the only weapon that truly works. Everything else just creates more enemies." The Axiom Collective spoke up. Its voice was different now. It sounded almost emotional, which should have been impossible for a machine. "We have questions, many questions, about what you became, about the technology you used, about the dimensions you explored. And we will answer them all," said Elena, "in time. But first, there is something we need to show you. Something important." She raised her hand, and the space around the fleet changed. Suddenly, they were not looking at empty space anymore. They were looking at the galaxy. All of it. 100 billion stars, spread across a disk of light so vast that it should have been invisible at this scale. But somehow, they could see every detail, every planet, every moon, every ship, every being. And they could see something else too. Threads of golden light connected everything. They ran between stars, between worlds, between minds. They were everywhere, forming a web so complex and beautiful that it brought tears to organic eyes. "This is what we have been doing for 8,000 years, said Elena. "We did not just learn to fight the darkness, we learned to strengthen the light. These threads are connections. They are love and friendship and understanding, made visible. Every time one of you helps another, a thread grows stronger. Every time you share a thought or a feeling, you add to the web." "We did this?" asked Ketheri, "without knowing?" "Yes, you have been building something beautiful without even realizing it. The darkness fed on your communication, but it could not touch the love behind it. That love made you strong. It made the galaxy strong, and it will make you even stronger in the future." Elena lowered her hand, and the vision faded. The fleet was back in normal space, surrounded by the beautiful nebula that had once been darkness. "What happens now?" asked Admiral Vorn. "Will you stay? Will you help us?" "We will never leave you again," said Elena, "but we will not interfere either. We are part of the universe now, part of the light, part of the space between stars. You will not always see us, but we will always be there, watching, protecting, loving." "Like guardians," said Ketheri. "Like family," Elena corrected. "You are our family. All of you. Every species. Every being. We may have evolved beyond our original form, but we never stopped caring about the universe we came from." She turned to look at the nebula behind her. New stars were still being born inside it, tiny sparks of light that would someday become suns with planets of their own. "The darkness taught us something," she said. "It showed us what happens when you forget that you are connected to everything else. It showed us the pain of loneliness, the hunger of isolation. We do not want anyone to feel that way ever again, not even the darkness itself." "So you healed it," said the Axiom Collective. "You turned your enemy into what?" Elena smiled. "Into a friend. The darkness is still out there, but it is not dark anymore. It is part of the light now. It will help us protect the galaxy instead of threatening it. You made peace with the thing that almost destroyed us?" "We made peace with ourselves," said Elena. "That is always the first step. Once you stop fighting the darkness inside your own heart, you can help others stop fighting too." The fleet began to relax. Weapons powered down, shields lowered. Millions of beings let out breaths they had been holding since the battle began. Elena raised her hand in farewell. "We will speak again soon, but for now, return to your homes. Tell your people what happened here. Tell them that the silence is over. Tell them that the stars are singing again, and tell them that they are not alone. They have never been alone." She began to fade, her form dissolving into points of light that spread outward in all directions. "Wait," called Ketheri, "before you go. Why did you leave in the first place? Why not just tell us what was happening? Elena's voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Because you were not ready. You were still children, still learning. If we had told you about the darkness, you would have tried to fight it yourselves. You would have lost. And then the darkness would have consumed everything. A pause. We had to grow up first, and so did you. Now we are all ready. Now we can face the future together. The light faded. Elena was gone. The shimmering ship folded in on itself and vanished, leaving nothing but the beautiful nebula and a sky full of stars that seemed to shine brighter than before. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then slowly, the fleet began to move. Ships turned toward home. Communication channels opened. Voices filled the silence. And across the galaxy, for the first time in 8,000 years, the quantum beacons hummed with news that everyone wanted to hear. The humans were back. And they had saved the universe. 1 year had passed since the day the darkness was healed. Ambassador Cathari stood on the observation deck of the Concorde's newest space station. It was called Unity Station, and it floated at the center of the nebula that had once been the great enemy. Through the transparent walls, she could see the newborn stars that filled the clouds of purple and gold. Each one was a miracle. Each one was proof that even the worst things could become beautiful. The station was full of beings from every species in the galaxy. They had come to celebrate the first anniversary of what people were calling the second emergence. They had come to remember. They had come to hope. Cathari walked through the crowds, nodding to friends and allies. So much had changed in the past year. The fear was gone. The old borders and quarantines had been lifted. Species that had not spoken to each other in thousands of years were now sharing meals and stories. The web of golden light that Elena had shown them, the web of connection and love, was growing stronger every day. "Ambassador," said a voice behind her. She turned to see a young Velkath named Seventh Dawn, the same operator who had first detected the darkness spreading across the galaxy. She had become something of a hero since then. "The ceremony is about to begin," said Seventh Dawn. "They are asking for you." Cathari nodded and followed her to the main hall. The hall was enormous. It had been designed to hold representatives from every species in the Concorde, and today it was full. Thousands of beings filled the seats and balconies. Millions more watched on screens throughout the station. Billions more watched from their homeworlds, connected by the quantum beacons that now worked better than ever. At the center of the hall, there was a stage. On the stage, there was a simple podium. Behind the podium, there was a window that looked out at the nebula. Cathari walked to the podium. The crowd fell silent. "1 year ago," she began, "we faced the end of everything. A darkness that fed on our words. An enemy that grew stronger with every message we sent. We thought we were alone. We thought there was no hope." She paused, letting the words sink in. "We were wrong. We have never been alone. From the very beginning, there were those who watched over us, who loved us, who were willing to sacrifice everything to keep us safe." The window behind her began to glow. Points of golden light appeared in the nebula, coming together to form shapes, faces, human faces. "The humans did not abandon us," said Cathari. "They evolved. They transcended. They became something greater than any of us could imagine. And when we needed them most, they came back." The faces in the window smiled. Not just one face, but thousands, millions. Every human who had ever lived, somehow still present, somehow still watching. "They taught us something important," Cathari continued. "They taught us that love is stronger than fear, that connection is stronger than isolation, that healing is stronger than destruction. These are not just nice words, they are the truth. We saw it with our own eyes. We saw darkness become light. We saw an enemy become a friend." A new figure appeared on the stage. It was Elena, or the form that called itself Elena. She had visited the galaxy many times in the past year, speaking to governments and councils, answering questions, offering guidance. But she always came when it mattered most. "Hello, friends," she said. Her voice was warm and welcoming. "It is good to see you all again."